The rain had just started tapping against the windows of the Carter family home in Denver, a soft drizzle that carried the scent of wet earth and new beginnings. Laura Carter had just returned from work, her blazer damp from the misty evening, and she was eager to change into something more comfortable. Her teenage son, Michael, was home too, sprawled out in the living room with his headphones on, half listening to music while pretending to do his homework. Laura had been working longer hours than usual, and though she loved her job as a community counselor, it often left her drained. At home, she tried her best to balance being a mother and maintaining her own sense of self. Michael, at 16, was at that difficult age when every word from a parent felt like either nagging or a lecture. Their relationship, though full of love, had been strained lately. Laura hurried upstairs, glad to finally have a few moments to herself. She kicked off her shoes, laid her bag on the chair, and pulled the curtains shut. She was halfway through changing when the door to her bedroom suddenly swung open. "Mom, do you know where the charger?" Michael froze in place, his voice catching in his throat as he realized she wasn't fully dressed. Laura gasped, clutching at the shirt she had been pulling on. "Michael, knock before you come in." Michael's face turned crimson as he quickly shut the door, stammering apologies. I'm sorry, Mom. I didn't know. I should have knocked, I swear." Laura sat on the edge of her bed, her heart pounding. She knew nothing truly inappropriate had happened, but the shock of the moment made her feel unsettled. She dressed quickly, her mind racing. When she finally stepped out of the room, she found Michael sitting on the stairs, his head in his hands. He looked more embarrassed than she had ever seen him. "Michael," she said softly, "it's okay. You didn't mean to. But you have to learn about respecting privacy. That was my space." "I know," he muttered, not meeting her eyes. "I feel awful. I wasn't thinking." Laura placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll move past this. Just remember, we both need boundaries. That's how we respect each other." Though the words were simple, something about that moment shifted between them. Laura could see how shaken Michael was, and for the first time in a long while, she realized how much he was still just a boy trying to figure out his place in the world. He wasn't the little kid who used to tug at her sleeve anymore, but he wasn't fully grown either. That evening, dinner was unusually quiet. Michael poked at his mashed potatoes while Laura tried to make light conversation about school. But both of them knew the air felt heavy. Later that night, Laura found herself staring out the window, the rain falling harder now. She remembered when Michael was younger, how he would come running into her room during storms, scared of the thunder. She would wrap him in a blanket and tell him stories until he fell asleep. Those memories reminded her that, no matter what, they shared a bond that couldn't be broken. The next day, Laura decided to talk to Michael more openly. After school, she made hot chocolate for both of them and sat him down at the kitchen table. "Michael," she began, "I know yesterday was awkward. But I also think maybe it happened for a reason. Maybe it's telling us we need to work on how we talk to each other, how we live together." Michael finally looked up, his eyes hesitant. "I guess I don't always respect your space. Anne. I don't really tell you much about my life anymore. I just feel like you wouldn't get it." Laura felt a pang in her chest. "You might be surprised at how much I understand. I know being 16 is confusing. I know you're trying to be independent. But independence doesn't mean shutting me out. It means learning how to balance space with connection." Michael's shoulders eased a little, and for the first time in months, he actually smiled. "You sound like you're giving one of your counselor speeches." Laura laughed softly. "Maybe I am. But it's because I love you." That night marked the beginning of a subtle but important transformation. The incident of him walking in by mistake became less about embarrassment and more about opening doors to conversations they hadn't had in years. Over the following weeks, Michael began to talk more. He told Laura about the pressure he felt at school, about the friends he was trying to keep up with, about the quiet fears he had about the future. Laura listened, sometimes offering advice, sometimes just letting him speak. And Laura, too, found herself opening up. She admitted how exhausting her job could be, how lonely it sometimes felt to carry the weight of the household alone since her divorce from Michael's father. She hadn't wanted to burden Michael with adult problems, But sharing just a little helped him see her not just as mom but as a person too. One rainy Saturday, about a month after the incident, Michael came into the kitchen where Laura was baking. He hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Mom, I know it was my fault that day. But I think if it hadn't happened, we'd still be pretending everything's fine when it isn't. Maybe it was kind of good." Laura looked at him, her hands covered in flour, and felt tears sting her eyes. "You're right. It forced us to stop ignoring the distance between us." From that day on, their home felt lighter. They laughed more often. They argued, too, but the arguments never lasted long, because now they both understood how important communication was. Years later, when Michael left for college, Laura thought back to that awkward afternoon when he walked in at the wrong time. What could have been just an embarrassing memory had, instead, become a turning point. It had been the moment everything changed, not because of what was seen, but because of what it revealed. A mother and son, separated by growing pains and silence, had found their way back to each other. And for Laura, that would always be the story she cherished, no matter how it began.